So I was sent a video by a guy on Facebook. He didn't actually say anything. He just threw a link in my inbox. Just dropped the link and bounced without a word. Kind of like the mailman or Santa Claus. Just this guy wasn't a fat, jolly white guy with a beard creeping into my house. I don't even have a chimney. I digress. Anyway, so he dropped the link in my inbox, but he didn't say a word. So I'm not sure if he agrees with this woman or he wanted me to see the stupidity. But either way, I felt this was a great opportunity to explain cultural appropriation one more time. For those in the back and a few in the front who must have earplugs in, because I've explained this 101 times if I haven't done it more. What is cultural appropriation? Well, to simplify cultural appropriation, the best way to explain it is to use plagiarism as an example. What is plagiarism? Plagiarism is when you take someone else's work, change the title of it, and put your name on the end, and pass it off as your own. I'm pretty sure we all know that. So how does this tie into cultural appropriation? So for example, we have Marc Jacobs, who saw an African hairstyle called Bantu knots. He saw the style. He took the style, renamed the mini buns, and said he created a new hairstyle. Sounds like plagiarism to me. And in turn, yes, that's cultural appropriation. Or cornrows, or cane rows, as they're sometimes called. This is an African hairstyle. Now, when Kim Kardashian wore it, and the other one, the not quite a Kardashian one, the Jenner one, wore cornrows, they called them boxer braids. And then people, primarily white people, claimed that Kim Kardashian, or the other one, invented a new hairstyle. So as you can see, they saw a style, took the style, changed the name, and said they invented it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is cultural appropriation in its truest, most simplest form. So of course, now that leaves a huge argument open, which is, well, if I don't change the name or claim to have invented it, am I appropriating said culture? Technically, no, you're not. Now, before I go into that, I had a message once from an African person, so someone directly from Africa, not a descendant, that said, Black people in America, the Caribbean, and Black Latinos, yes, they exist, complain about cultural appropriation, all whilst they appropriate African culture like wearing dashikis, head wraps, braids, etc. Now I have this inner voice that says, really? Really? And then I have this other voice that says, Angel, murder is illegal. Do not do it. So since I'm not looking to go to jail anytime soon, I just take a deep breath, count to 145, because counting to 10 just simply isn't enough. So let's answer the Black Americans, Black Caribbeans, Black Latinos appropriation of African culture nonsense. Firstly, Black people in the United States, the Caribbean, and Black Latinos have a culture that is based on African culture. It has an African foundation. The food, the music, the art, hairstyles, and so forth. Because Black people in North and South America are of African descent. They are known as the African diaspora. So it's part of their culture. You can't appropriate something that is part of your culture. That's like telling Irish Americans that they can't celebrate St. Patrick's Day because they're not born in Ireland. But let's play devil's advocate for one moment. Black people in North and South America don't go around wearing dashikis and calling them colorful printed gowns. Nope. They don't change the name. Black people in North and South America do not claim that dashikis, or anything alike, came from the Americas. They acknowledge and pay homage to the fact that they are indeed African and from Africa. They also say, going back to my African roots. So simply based on that, no. Black Americans are not culturally appropriating said styles from Africa. I know it sounds stupid that some people would even think that, but they actually do. There's also another argument, the argument that, well, Black people need to stop appropriating white culture, like stop using phones and the internet and straight hair, and no one complains when Black women wear weave or dye their hair blonde. Now, as I have a very in-depth video about this, I'm just going to touch on that briefly and direct you to the link in my description, which will shut the argument down, and I suggest that you just post that link whenever you hear that stupid argument being said. But there will still be people that aren't too bright that will still say after this, well, Black people need to stop appropriating white culture. Yep. So culture is based on music, food, art, language, traditions, clothing, hairstyles, and customs, and so forth and so forth. Technology is not a custom. The use of technology would not be accustomed unless you were talking about some customary way that in which you use a cell phone. For example, I have seen Somalian women put their phones underneath their headscarf and use their scarf as a makeshift Bluetooth, hands-free device. I'm sure there are other ethnic groups of people that do that too, but that's about as close as you're going to get to assigning culture to technology. Also, hair as texture is not culture. The texture of your hair is a physical trait. The color of your skin is a physical trait, so not cultural. No one has ever said, "In my culture, we have straight blonde hair." No. They may say, "My race generally have straight blonde hair." Race is based on physical features. Culture is not. Again, culture is based on music, food, art, language, traditions, clothing, hairstyles, and customs. The link to that video, which goes in a lot of depth and will shut it down, is in the description. Trust me on this. Check it out. Now, the thing about culture is culture can be adopted by anyone. This is a fact. For example, if a Jamaican man marries a Puerto Rican woman, he did once, 31 years ago, ended up having this amazing, incredible guy that they named Angel. Anyway, we'll talk about him later. That Jamaican man may take on and adopt her culture, and there's nothing wrong with that. A white British woman might date or marry a Nigerian guy and learn his culture. She might learn how to cook his native food, speak his language. She may even start to wear traditional clothing from his country. This happens, and there's nothing wrong with that. It only becomes a problem if the British woman then says that these Nigerian cultural traditions that she has learned are British and they were invented by her or her people. We can adopt culture, but let's not steal it. It's really that simple. Now, there's a difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. Someone who just steals someone's culture and passes it off as their own and claims it for their own group of people, that's theft. That's cultural appropriation. Someone who likes another's culture, respects it, wants to embrace it, understands the history of the culture and the significance of it, and always gives the rightful props, that's cultural appreciation. What is a culture vulture? A culture vulture is someone who uses another culture's traditions, styles, or customs to make money and get famous, with no care for the people or the culture. And in most cases, once they've raped the culture of everything they can get, they will discard of it. There are quite a few scenarios of this happening, even very recently. I won't say any names. Now, you get rock and roll. Some people, when they think of rock and roll, they think of Elvis Presley, Guns N' Roses, and basically white folks. But rock and roll was actually slave slang for having sex. Rock and roll was created by black people, Sister Rosetta Tharpe and Chuck Berry, to be exact. Elvis Presley stole his songs from black people and got rich from it. That's a culture vulture, and there are many of these. One of the biggest issues that black people have is when a white person or a non-black person does something that a black person might do, but the white person is automatically praised simply because they're white. And they don't even have to be better than the black person. But just because they're white, they're elevated, they're praised, and they're given props, and they profit from it. Take Eminem, for example. Eminem is without a doubt a good rapper. Is he one of the best? Well, he's up there. But if Eminem was black and from Detroit, would he have made it to the level of fame and success that he's reached? No. A large percentage of Eminem's fame is attributed to him being white. Mark Wahlberg, the actor, used to rap by the name of Marky Mark. He once said that he knows the only reason he gets attention is because he's white, and he said he'll definitely use it to his advantage.
I think it's time I kick a little verse. See, some do hip-hop and forget where it started. The claiming a white complexion ain't the reason why their records charted, please. I mean, it's so easy to see. When a white dude raps, the public sees it as a novelty. Even me, although I take it seriously, some just like me because of my RACE, but I won't quit and I won't stop, because I do hip-hop records just because I love hip-hop.
That's white privilege. You can be mediocre as a white person and get a hell of a lot farther than a black person who has a lot more talent. So let's listen to what this woman has to say.
Today, I would like to talk about cultural appropriation. Now, real talk. Out of all the social justice issues, cultural appropriation is, in my opinion, the most representative of how ridiculous political correctness has gotten.
You say ridiculous. That's because it doesn't affect you. It's not your culture that's being stolen and wiped from the history books and replaced with a new face. Now, I know that you're an Asian girl, but although people take on Asian culture, no one feels the need to steal and rename said culture. That has a lot to do with your people not having it. Could you imagine me walking around in a kimono with a samurai sword and saying this is called a long knife and silky PJs fresh from Brooklyn? There would be an uproar and y'all wouldn't have it.
So in this video, we're going to be addressing and debunking the most common of those arguments. And
Are we now? Well, firstly, you have to understand what cultural appropriation is, and I don't think you do.
explaining why at the end of the day, cultural appropriation is really not that big of a deal.
It's really not that big of a deal? How about I go and take all of the videos from your channel, change the titles, put my name on them, and say I created them? It's not that big of a deal, right?
To start with, we have the comment that I've seen most frequently, which is, but what about the social context? Now, something that people like me who are critical of cultural appropriation often bring up is the fact that when it comes to majority white cultures, appropriation is usually seen as a-okay. Like how people can appropriate Irish culture on St. Patrick's Day all they want, but when it comes to Mexican culture on Cinco de Mayo, that is a big no-no. Definitely not bueno. That's a huge double standard, and it's something I brought up in my video.
White culture. Well, on St. Patrick's Day, whoever celebrates that, I don't because I'm not Irish. But no one changes the cultural traditions. They don't put up Nigerian flags in place of Irish flags. They don't put pictures of Santa Claus instead of leprechauns. You're more than welcome to come and celebrate, as long as you don't rename St. Patrick's Day Saint Get Drunk Day. So that was a really bad example. That's not even cultural appropriation.
I got to that is that those issues are apparently totally different because of the historical and ongoing oppression that non-white people and cultures have faced and are facing at the hands of the white man.
This is true. No one else's culture is being stolen, rewritten, and passed off as someone else's.
Alright, imperialism is bad, slavery is bad, oppression is bad. No one is going to deny that.
You don't sound convinced. Are you sure it's bad? I'm not believing you here. More conviction next time.
But the thing is, white people in the West are no longer engaged in that. They're not. Western countries are currently the most free for people of all races.
People in the West are no longer engaged in that? Really? So you're trying to tell me that racism no longer exists in the West? Netherlands and Black Pete? Poland? Russia? How about France and their current constant rape of African and Caribbean countries? And I'm sure that a bunch of people will be in the comment section listing all of the oppression that is going on in Europe towards people of African descent.
The West is a bastion of equality.
A bastion of equality.
And it's not oppressing its non-white citizens. In regards to past injustices, you know the ones. People, including white people, are not responsible for what their ancestors may or may not have done.
Not responsible. But they do, in fact, benefit, the same way the descendants of the enslaved still suffer from the scars. How do they benefit? Remember, just because you don't think something is a privilege, because you live it every day, doesn't mean that it's not a privilege. The freedom to wear whatever you want and not be judged as a criminal. Walking around stores and not being followed around because of the color of your skin. Lesser jail time. The list goes on and on and on. And it's very, very real.
People are individuals. We're accountable for our own actions and nobody else's.
I love this one. Individuals. The privilege of individuality. Something Black people don't have. Because when one Black person does something, we all do it. It becomes the stereotype they hold us to. But you can be an individual judged on your own merit. That's privilege. But Angel, you said she's Asian. Yes, I did. And all people of color do not have the same struggles. They have their privileges too. I hate that terminology, people of color, because it automatically puts us all in one box and acts as if we're all one group of people that all have each other's backs. When we know Asian people and Black people, well, I'm going to put a link in the description to a video that explains that very clearly.
We shouldn't have to examine our genealogies and history textbooks to determine what sweaters we're allowed to wear.
Ignorance is bliss. So as long as you don't know, then it's okay, right? I'll remember that when I get arrested for committing a crime that I didn't know was illegal. I'll tell the judge I didn't study the law. I'm sure he'll say ignorance of the law is not a reason to commit a crime. Ignorance of the law does not justify the crime.
I know that I, as an individual, am not oppressing anybody. So what's the problem? This whole historical and social context argument is really just based in resentment and being spiteful and vengeful toward white people.
I don't think we're being spiteful and resentful towards white people. You see, this is all part of the silencing of Black voices. Do not speak out or you will be seen as being hateful. So I guess we can't complain about cultural appropriation because you'll call us spiteful. No one said you couldn't wear a hairstyle. We just said don't act like it's not African or black. Don't turn around and say, the hairstyle is not black, it's not African. That alone is disrespectful.
These people are trying to withhold certain types of food.
No one is trying to withhold any types of food. Why are you lying? If you want to eat some curried mutton or ackee and saltfish, go ahead.
Clothing and hairstyles as a form of punishment for what white people have done in the past.
As a form of punishment for what white people have done in the past. Not what they're doing now? No? No?
And if you're just assuming that someone's white because they don't see cultural appropriation as a problem, there's a good chance you're going to be wrong. Tons of non-white people don't see it as a big deal.
Well, that's because it's not their culture that's being stolen. I don't care if you cut your hair, because it's not my hair being cut. But if you try to cut my hair, now it's a problem. It doesn't affect them. So of course they don't see it as a problem.
I'm Asian and I grew up in Asia. I welcome people sharing in Asian culture.
But do you welcome people stealing Asian culture and passing it off as their own? You clearly don't know what cultural appropriation is, do you?
And look, if you believe that being non-white gives you a different perspective that a white person wouldn't have or understand, then by all means share your experience and add to the dialogue. But don't try to shut the conversation down by dismissing someone's opinion because of their skin color.
Most people will dismiss your opinion because it's wrong. It's uneducated. You don't even know what cultural appropriation is. It has nothing to do with your race. Stupid comes in all colors.
And next there's, when white people do it, it's trendy. When we do it, it's criticized.
Well, yes, that is a very valid argument because it's true. There are so many scenarios where a white person wears a black style and they're seen as sexy, trendy, a trendsetter. They get praised. They even profit from it. But when a black person does it, it's criticized.
So this is something that comes up especially in regards to the fashion world and celebrities. People like Kylie Jenner, or there was also this whole Marc Jacobs hairstyle controversy thing. I don't know, whatever.
This whole controversy thing, I don't know, whatever. You didn't even research the Marc Jacobs debacle. How can you use it as an example when you don't even know anything about it? Terrible. This is pointless now.
The idea here is that when someone like Kylie Jenner wears her hair in braids, it's seen as cool. But when a black woman does it, it's seen as ghetto.
Yes, that is the problem.
Therefore, I guess we should just ban white people from wearing braids or something. When it comes to this one, I'm not even sure where they're going with this.
You're not sure where they're going with this? Because it doesn't affect you. Black people are not saying don't wear the style, but if you're going to be praised for it whilst black people ridiculed, then yes, it's a problem. We don't care what you do to your hair, but we do care when we're disrespected for it. It's like you copying my work verbatim. I get an F and you get an A. How the hell do you get an A and I get an F and our work is identical? You copied my work. I think that's about enough from her. I've had enough. I'm not going to listen to any more. I've got quite a few links in the description. I definitely suggest that you check them out. They will go into a lot of depth and give you the tools to argue your case against these types of idiots. So definitely check it out. Peace, love, and coconut oil.
Hey man, that's racist. Please remember that from now on, brand new never before seen videos, as well as live streams, will only be available on my website, ikyg.com, via a Patreon subscription. ikyg.com is a Black-owned, Black-ran platform, 100% free from censorship. It's the only place where we don't have to worry about what we say and expressing ourselves. Make sure you check out the description and the comment section for important links, as well as information in video form that shows you what benefits you get when you support the site and join my Patreon. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe and be notified every time I upload a video. For exclusive content and perks, check out my Patreon. This is where we have private live streams, group chats, live Q&As, live phone calls, and open topics. This is a safe space where you can interact with other like-minded people, make friends, send each other direct private messages, and so much more without any trolls. And yes, you get to use GIFs and images in the live chats. So what are you waiting for? This is a completely independent website, free from censorship. If you'd like to make a donation towards the site so we can continue to put out the truth without fear of being silenced, then please hit that donation button. It's greatly appreciated. Check out the rest of the site for videos, private and public live streams, find out all the tea, and make sure to utilize the Black Money section of the website. Advertise your business absolutely free to people that look like you, free forever. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at angel_IKYG.